You're listening to the second annual Very Merry Holiday edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable, a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart radio station, News Radio Wham 1180. Your host, Dom Genova, brings you tales of the holiday life with amazing stories, including a very jolly guest or two. It's perfect for kids from 2 to 92. Now, here's your host, Dom Genova.
Well, welcome to the No Nonsense Roundtable Christmas show. Or should I say blend of shows, because you're going to hear some segments from our live kids show December 5th at the Strong National Museum of Play, and other segments recorded later, all in good fun. At the kids show, we had Wham TV anchor Don Alhart reading his book, Sibley's Christmas Adventure. Theresa Marsenburg, WROC TV anchor, interviewing Chris Bench, the curator of the Strong National Museum of Play, talking about the museum, its history, and the toys in the Toy Hall of Fame. And today, I have scheduled a Zoom call with Santa and Mrs. Santa. Not heard at the kids show, and for the rest of our weekly listeners, I have a story of a town I discovered on a drive through the Finger Lakes. How the town was formed, and what Christmas is like in that town. It's a town right smack dab in the middle of the Finger Lakes. I'll tell you about it after this musical interlude. I've had Chuck Mercado on my show a few times. He's in the Rochester Music Hall of Fame. And here is his son, Joe, singing a song about Christmas in New York that he wrote. Listen to this.
Christmas time in New York City, caught up in the holiday glow. Central Park is glistening in the snow. Ooh, there's no place in the world like Manhattan, city of spectacular views. Shopping up and down the avenues. We're gathered here together in Rockefeller Center. You can feel the energy. The season has ignited. We're all excited, lighting up the Christmas tree. The skyline is majestic. The night is electric, lit up like a big billboard. Can't get any better than Christmas in New York. This town really knows how to party. Music and magic fill the air. Santa Claus is dancing in Times Square. Yeah, we're gathered here together in Rockefeller Center. You can feel the energy. The season has ignited. We're all excited, lighting up the Christmas tree. The skyline is majestic. The night is electric, lit up like a big billboard. It can't get any better than Christmas in New York. New York, New York, New Can't get any better than Christmas in New York. 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 It can't get any better. Nothing like New York
I'm happy to say we signed an advertising contract with the local Chamber of Commerce, and it's funny how I came across them. Driving through the Finger Lakes, right smack dab in the middle of them, just south of the town of Ovid, is a town, Middle Finger Lake. The signs, driving into town, Middle Finger Lake, where life is perfect, but could always be better. Do a little research on this town. It's kind of cool. The story of Middle Finger Lake goes back to the late 19th century when the majority of the town's ancestors came over on a sailing ship called the Agita that left somewhere, they think, in Sicily right after the Civil War. And any of those of you who know what the word Agita means should let you know that this should have given them some pause. But I digress. The good ship Agita was known for its modest accommodations. The town founders were humble business people and farmers not looking to impress anybody and had a history of being frugal. This is why they decided to board the boat Agita together and get a group rate. Being a discount transportation line, the crew was not particularly seasoned, and after a long and arduous journey, the boat, being slightly off course at its inception, didn't end up in New York City as intended, but ended up in Bayonne, New Jersey, directly across the river. At this point, the future Middle Lakeans could do one of two things. They could go across the river to New York with its shiny allure, or get out of New Jersey as fast as they could, a sentiment still held by everybody who's ever been to New Jersey to this day. Having heard Horace Greeley's advice to go west, young man, the group decided to elect whoever they thought might be the best at directing themselves to go west, and they elected a fellow called Isaac. It's of interest to note that Isaac was the original inspiration for the Who's On First comedy routine by Abbott and Costello. Having reached the desk of the immigration agent, Mr. Isaac was asked for his name, last name first. He said Isaac. Then he was asked for his first name, which he said Isaac. Then the guy says, I had your last name already. Tell me your first name, which he said Isaac. Well, we all know how this goes, right? So at that, Mr. Isaac was sent out for psychological evaluation, which in the 1800s was much more akin to medieval torture than what they do today. One of the reasons that the group picked Isaac was because of his frugality and lack of pretension. A farmer by trade, they looked forward to his leadership on both direction and preparation. The only problem is that Isaac was a little too frugal, and Bayonne has few choices. He bought the compass for the journey from Bob's Discount Compass and Used Oats store. For any of those who know what used oats are, you know what I'm talking about. But I digress again. It was the middle of May, and the group set out to do what they came to do, and that is relocate someplace. So in the middle of May, they set out for what they thought was west. And there's some question whether they wanted to go to Indiana or California, but they certainly didn't want to go northwest. So right around July, they had enough schlepping around and decided to settle right there, smack dab in the middle of the Finger Lakes. Having bonded on the ship, the townspeople felt like continuing the good friendly relations would be helpful. So at the first town board meeting, in an attempt to advance a spirit of friendliness, it was suggested that each resident greet the other with a positive sign of encouragement, and a Gunter Spiegel suggested that the number one sign, the index finger that we all use today, would be appropriate. Well, good old Gunter was voted down, the townspeople deriding him for his lack of creativity. They insisted that the next finger over should be the number one sign. They were simply unaware what this meant in their new country. It wasn't until Charlie McPherson visited the town of Penyan and absent-mindedly gave the middle finger number one sign to the blacksmith that he found out the hard way what that sign actually means. So he came back and met with the town people, and that was the first incident of them actually repealing a law, and they don't do that anymore because they know better. So that is the short story of Middle Finger Lake. They have a wonderful Christmas tradition, and I would suggest that if you were looking for something to do, you take a trip to see the wonderful displays of lights and different activities they have in Middle Finger Lake. And if you need directions, just contact me on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com.
This segment brought to you by the Middle Finger Lakes Chamber of Commerce. Looking for an injury attorney? Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe are your personal injury specialists. We not only will try our best to get you millions in your court case, but if we lose, we'll give you 500 scratch-off lottery tickets, meaning all is not lost. Remember our motto, if you lose, you still might win. Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. Approval to the New York Bar. Pending.
Christmas at Middle Finger Lake is very special. Midnight Mass will now be at 9 p.m. That's just the way it's done now. At the corner of Isaac and Bayonne is the Church of St. John the Riddler. Services provided by Father John O'Reilly, ORP, Order of Riddling Priests. Riddling priests go through an extensive training not only to preach, but to pose questions to you that you have to think about, like, if God is all-powerful, can he make a rock big enough so he himself can't lift it? If somebody tells you they only lie, should you believe them? Why do you say watch it only after your friend falls? And would you actually let a little drummer boy beat a drum in front of your newborn baby? A gentle and soft-spoken man, he told his parents he wanted to be a priest when he was 8 and never changed his opinion even after going through puberty. He always wondered about the dilemma that in some denominations the preacher can have a family but can't drink, but in Catholic priests can drink but not have families. He never thought that was quite equitable. Mother and Father O'Reilly had no problem with him becoming a priest and going into the celibate life. After all, he was the youngest of 11 children, 8 boys and 3 girls. With 7 other boys to carry the bloodline, they figured they had plenty of protection. And perhaps John could just pave the way for the rest of them to get to heaven. He tells a story when he has a couple of bourbons in him, over and over again. The man in the flood. And he tells it like this. You see, there was a man in his house during a terrible rain. He climbed on his roof, and a rowboat came to pick him up. But he shooed it away, saying, "Go away, the Lord is going to save me." The water rose higher on the roof, and a powerboat came by. And again he said, "No, go away, the Lord is going to save me." So the rain came higher, and now, clinging to the chimney, a helicopter came by, and he sent it away, so the Lord is going to save me. Well, the man was washed away, and he died. In heaven, he met the Lord and asked the Lord what happened, that he trusted the Lord, and the Lord apparently abandoned him, and he got washed away, and he died. And the Lord looked him in the eye and said, "I sent you a rowboat, a powerboat, and a helicopter. What were you waiting for?" Father John says, the Lord speaks, but we also have to listen. Services are due to start after 10 or so, and sit in your car. Father John will tell you when it's time to come in. Oh, and Maud's Donut Shop and Tractor Supply will be open late after the services. I'll see you there.
This message brought to you by the Middle Finger Lakes Chamber of Commerce. The Middle Finger Lakes congregation of the Temple Beth Israel would like to remind the public that they will not be having a Christmas service this year. They did not have one last year, and they will not be having one any year in the future. You need to get used to this and stop showing up. We don't mind you using our parking lot to attend your church services next door. Just please stop trying to get in. Thank you.
Well, we're back listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable Christmas Show. And a very special guest we have is Mr. Don Alhart, who's going to read his book, Sibley's Christmas Adventure, to the children.
Ever since he could remember, Christmas was his favorite time of the year. After all, that's when he got to see Santa Claus himself. And listen as all the boys and girls sat on his lap with their long list to tell him what they wanted for Christmas. And best of all, it was all happening in his home, the 4th floor of the big Sibley's department store. The little mouse lived in the wall right behind Santa's big chair. And just like the store, his name was Sibley. Sibley lived there all year long, but he was most excited every winter when the workmen would set up the giant holiday display. It was called the Magic Corridor, and the boys and girls would walk through a beautiful winter wonderland, complete with a sleigh, reindeer, and even a Santa's workshop. Sibley loved to watch the mechanical elves as they made imaginary presents to deliver to children all over the world. Someday, thought Sibley, he might even get to the real North Pole to meet those elves in person. For now, though, Sibley was content to see the children come to the toy department every year and watch their starry-eyed faces all aglow with the joy of visiting Santa's magic corridor. Sometimes, as quiet as the mouse he was, Sibley would scamper out of his little hole to sit under Santa's chair as the boys and girls recited their Christmas lists. In the background, he could hear Mr. Joe Benet, playing along with Gene Autry's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer on a kazoo. Joe was there every year, and moms and dads would buy kazoos for their children so they could sing and play along too. One day, though, after a long winter's nap, Sibley was awakened to some loud noises. Sibley knew that work crews carefully put the magic corridor in storage every year, but something was different this year. He overheard one workman say, "You know, I'm going to miss setting this up next year. It always gets me in the holiday spirit. I can't believe this wonderful old department store is finally closing." "Oh no," said Sibley. "I can't believe what I'm hearing." But sure enough, Sibley did hear those workmen. "Everything's got to go," they said. "Say goodbye to the magic corridor." Oh, Sibley was so sad he started to cry. All the toys would be gone, and the make-believe toy workshop would be torn down, and even Santa's big chair. And oh no, worst of all, Santa and all of the boys and girls would be gone too. "Oh, woe is me," said Sibley. "What am I going to do?" That night, Sibley couldn't sleep. He just tossed and turned in his little bed behind the little hole in the wall, right next to where Santa's chair used to be. Finally, Sibley decided to go for a walk. Sometimes he would jump on the big brass escalators and jump off just as the moving step would disappear. Sometimes he would go all the way to the main floor just to see the famous clock under which shoppers would meet. Tonight, though, the escalators were still, so Sibley just slid down the long, rubbery banisters. Pretty soon, he was on the second floor where work crews had been clearing out all of the racks of clothing, and that's when he spotted it. All the way at the front of the store, a giant walkway. Sibley crept slowly toward the giant glass-lined tunnel and began to cross it. If he looked down, he could see all the cars and buses on the snow-filled Main Street. Sibley just kept on going. Creep mouse, until he was all the way to the other side. Just as he was safely to the other side, he was startled by a small voice saying, "Hello." "Wow, you scared me," said Sibley. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" "My name is McCurdy," the little mouse replied, "and you must be Sibley. I heard you might be coming, and I'm here to help you on your journey. Just follow me." So Sibley followed McCurdy through another big department store, through the ladies' shoes, past a little tea room, and finally to a giant shopping mall. Sibley looked up to see shiny silver cars hanging from a rail that ran all the way around the mall. "What's that?" he asked. "Oh," said McCurdy, "that's the Midtown monorail. You'll have to jump on board for the rest of your journey." "But where am I going?" said Sibley. "I can't tell you," said McCurdy, "except to say it will be a magical trip to a very special place." And so Sibley crawled up into the very last car on the monorail, and as soon as he did, the lights came on, and the silver car began to move so fast that Sibley bumped his head on the seat. Sibley hung on for dear life as the monorail car picked up speed and then broke free from the rail and started climbing toward the ceiling, up and away as the magic monorail soared through the air, crashed through the window, and jetted into the sky. Sibley looked down on the city below as it got smaller and smaller, and he soared higher and higher. "Oh, I'm so tired," said Sibley. "I think I'll just close my eyes and take a little nap." As he slept, Sibley dreamed of his happy memories on the 4th floor of the big department store. Oh, how he would miss the boys and girls and the elves and, of course, Santa Claus. All of a sudden, Sibley awoke with a jolt. The monorail had come to a stop. When Sibley looked out the window, he thought he was still dreaming because he saw the reindeer, Santa's workshop, and yes, even Santa Claus himself. "Where am I?" he said. "What happened?" And that's when he heard Santa say, "Hey, Sibley, I thought you would never get here. Welcome to the North Pole." As Sibley looked around, he saw that everything was just as it was on the 4th floor of the department store. There was even a little mouse hole right next to Santa's big chair. Sibley crawled in it to take another nap, but was soon awakened by voices, little voices, this time as boys and girls lined up to tell Santa what was on their list. And then he heard it. He couldn't believe his little ears. The sounds of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer as the boys and girls serenaded Santa with their kazoos. Sibley slowly crept out of the hole and nestled himself beneath Santa's chair. This has been a very special day, he thought. A wonderful day indeed. And as he drifted into a night of dreams, listening to the music, he thought he heard McCurdy's little voice saying, "Merry Christmas to all," in Sibley's magic corridor.
Thanks, Don, and we have more highlights from our Christmas show coming right after this break.
It's a magical place for kids of all abilities.
At no charge, the Rochester Rotary Sunshine Camp has been serving children of all abilities for the last 100 years. Help us grow into the next 100 years. Go to sunshinecamp.org to learn more about how you can help.
Where kids have no barriers to fun.
The Rochester Rotary Sunshine Camp.
This is Dom Geneva, former car dealer with a no-nonsense car buying tip. When shopping for a car and you see a commercial saying a brand is dog tested and dog approved, you may want to take into consideration that a dog does not have opposable thumbs and has dubious powers of deduction, is unemployed, and consequently unable to be approved. Those are staged videos of dogs driving. Yes, a dog can drive a car, but it can't drive it well. If you choose to identify as a dog, please call the dealer to make sure that they have accommodations for you ahead of time. Just your weekly, no-nonsense car buying tip. Well, next up we have Theresa Marsenburg, who is anchor of WROC TV 8 Evening News, here with Christopher Bench, the curator of what I call the world's giant toy box, the Strong National Museum of Play, to tell you a little bit more about, well, the Strong National Museum of Play. It's a cool place.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Everyone looks so festive and beautiful in your colors and ready for the holiday season. I love it. Love to see it. My name is Theresa Marsenburg, and I have the pleasure of anchoring the evening news on Channel 8, WROC. I've been here since January, so almost a full year, and I've never been to the museum. So this is my first time, and the first time I get to interview you, Mr. Chris.
All right, Theresa, it's a treat having you here.
Yes.
It's a treat having all of you here. My name is Chris Bench, and I'm in charge of the more than 500,000 toys, dolls, games, and video games here at the Strong Museum. So there's nothing better than talking about toys at this time of year.
Absolutely.
So I've got some images behind you, Theresa, that will take us through some toys that are in the National Toy Hall of Fame. Did all of you know that there was a Hall of Fame for toys? Yes, that's right. And in November, we inducted 3 new toys to the Hall of Fame. We inducted one really old toy, the Top, that has been around more than 5,000 years. We inducted a middle-aged toy, the Light Bright, that lets you create images with colored backlit pegs. And our third toy was the newest of all of them from the 1980s Masters of the Universe. So, I've got some pictures from Christmases of years gone by that include some of the other toys. There are now 80 toys in the National Toy Hall of Fame. So what's the girl riding on the left-hand side of this picture? A bike. Bicycles are in the Hall of Fame. And what does the little boy have on the floor? A train. That's right. Lionel trains are in the National Toy Hall of Fame.
Yes. How many of us love trains? Choo-choo trains. Choo-choo, the caboose. How many have a bike already? Maybe the bike might be on your... Who has a bike on your Christmas list? Your wish list? Yes, yes. Now, Chris, are there any toys up there that one might think is not a toy?
You know, you're just a little bit ahead. Let's go through a couple more slides of people with toys. Here's a really big baby doll sitting in her own high chair. And what's that? A dollhouse. We've got more than 200 dollhouses here at the Strong Museum. What does she have? Teddy bear, that's right. And that one's a little hard to see. That little girl is playing with a construction toy called Tinker Toys that go back about 100 years.
I remember the Tinker Toys too.
And at the right-hand side of this picture on the underneath the Christmas tree is a jigsaw puzzle, because jigsaw puzzles are in the National Toy Hall of Fame. But, Theresa, you're right. There are some things in the Hall of Fame that you might not think of as toys.
Sure.
So the first one we inducted was back in 2005 when we inducted what these 3 boys are popping out of. What's that? A box, a cardboard box. Because even though boxes aren't made to play with, especially if it's a big box for a refrigerator, this is a piece of furniture that these boys are coming out of. A box can be so many things. It can be a spaceship, it can be a cabin on the prairie, it can be a castle. You name it, box can be all sorts of things.
It could be a sled.
Right.
You can make your own dollhouse with it or a tree house with it. One thing, though, I would suggest is that you make sure you ask your parents before you play in a box, right?
That's right. So let's go. Sometimes boxes are big, and this one is just the right size for this baby. And that message on the side is probably a good message for a little kid. What does it say? That's right, fragile, handle with care. But what about this? A stick. A stick is also in the National Toy Hall of Fame. Sticks can be magic wands. Sticks can be swords. Sticks can be lightsabers. All sorts of things. Even dogs know that sticks are toys.
You can play with them.
And here's one last type of non-toy toy. What are these people wearing? Blankets. Blankets can be a superhero's cape. They can be a princess's gown. They can be a raft in the middle of the sea of lava on the living room floor. They can be so many different things. So those are 3 great non-toy toys in the Hall of Fame.
Where would we find those toys in the Hall of Fame?
Toys are part of our Hall of Fame gallery on the museum's 2nd floor that you can go visit, explore some of the toys. You can play a game of Twister. You can shoot bubbles out of your fingers up a digital bubble tower. You can play with musical Crayola crayons. There are so many fun things to do in our Toy Hall of Fame gallery. And even though you can't do it tonight, Theresa, I hope you'll come back and play with us another day. So as you make your wish list this December, whether it's curling up under the tree with a ventriloquist scary doll like this one, or whether you're reading a brochure like this little girl is that says some assembly required, batteries not included, I wish you all wonderful toys, wonderful new toys, wonderful memories of classic toys, and I'm going to take great pleasure in showing you around the Strong Museum someday soon. Theresa.
Yes, that will be exciting. I had one question, though, I wanted to ask you. Do you have a favorite toy? What's your favorite toy?
I was a toy car kid growing up, so Matchbox and Hot Wheels toy cars were some of my favorites, and somewhere around my house, I still have a couple of those hanging out.
Yeah.
What about you?
Lots of fun.
Favorite?
I think I was a Baby Alive.
Oh.
Yeah.
The wonderful pooping doll.
Yeah, you get to feed her.
That's right. Her. And buy her replacement diapers after you've fed her.
That's right, yep.
The doll that keeps on giving.
Exactly.
Well, thanks so much, Theresa. Thanks to all of you, and thanks to Dom Geneva for bringing us here to help celebrate the holidays in the right way.
Well, you can see the toys that Chris talked about yourself at the Strong National Museum of Play. It's a great place to come and bring your kids, or just yourself.
The following is brought to you by the Middle Finger Lakes Chamber of Commerce. When Isaac started Isaac Buick in 1922, he realized one thing, and his motto lives on today. Don't be putting on airs. A Buick is good enough. Mr. Isaac realized that most Finger Lakeans did not want to be seen as unsuccessful as driving a Studebaker, and driving a Cadillac just showed you had a problem with self-esteem. Stop in today for our Leave Your Dog at Home service promotion. 10% off any service for cat owners.
Welcome back to the No Nonsense Roundtable Christmas Show. I'm Dom Geneva, and this has been such a great time reminiscing about our first Christmas show, and I'm so happy to welcome Santa and Mrs. Santa back. Well, we have Santa and Mrs. Santa here on a Zoom call. I know you must be really busy. The big day is coming up very, very soon.
Hello, Dom. So good to be back with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're busy. That's an understatement this time of year.
Well, anybody that doesn't know, we had a presentation for the kids, a No Nonsense Roundtable Christmas show at the Strong National Museum of Play on December 5th. It was Monday, a little while ago, and the two of you were kind enough to come and be part of our show, and a little bit ahead of time, but things are starting to really rank up for you, aren't they?
Absolutely. Happy to do it. We had a wonderful time.
And so, you know, the question I always like to ask people is that what did you want to do when you were like 10 years old, Santa? Did you always know that you were destined to be Santa? Was this one of those things? Or?
No, that came a little later in life. But when I was young, I wanted to be a race car driver.
And the sleigh goes faster than that now.
Absolutely
right?
does.
Well,
I love it.
Well, you got your wish. And Mrs. Santa, how did you I was always going to call you Mr. Santa. How did you and Santa meet?
Well, it was a very romantic story.
Oh, that story again? That's embarrassing.
It's so wonderful.
It was so long ago.
I know. Let me tell it. I love telling this story.
Go ahead.
So my mother was very strict, and she made me go to church every Sunday and made me sing in the choir. So one Christmas Eve, I had a solo, and I sang a hymn, and out in the congregation, I saw this wonderful, jolly man, and my heart just leapt. And my mother noticed it too, so she whisked me away right after church and told me, I don't want you to see that man ever again. And so, in Santa fashion, I invited him over to Sunday dinner, and he made my mom her prized wooden spoon for her sauce, and he made everybody gifts, and he was so wonderful, and I knew he was the man that I was going to fall in love with and be with forever.
I remember on one of her lists when she was young that she liked to cook, and so I knew that would be something that she would find, very useful. And anyways, it won her heart, and that's how I won your heart.
Well, how the
That's
two of you in
right.
the kitchen? Do you cook together? Or?
Absolutely not. Nope.
I am the taste tester, though.
He is.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Especially Christmas cookies.
Oh, of course. Well, thank you for coming in last Monday. It was really nice. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I mean,
What a
and seeing the
wonderful
kids.
place.
Oh, the kids. Yeah.
I mean, we've been there many times.
Yes.
And they're always surprising even me with some of the new toys that they put in and some of the things that they say. Well, this is a toy, and I'm like, no way, a stick. I'm not going to take a stick to somebody's house.
Well, I know you drop off extra toys there on the holidays, so they have a copy of the new toy. But yeah, a stick. I don't think you ever handed somebody a stick.
No.
A lump of coal.
No.
Yeah,
not
is there any truth to that lump of coal thing?
I'm trying to think. Mrs. Claus wasn't there a when Dom was young? Didn't we consider that at one point?
Well, I didn't want to bring that up, but
I think I'm too young to remember that.
Yeah.
Well, if it was Dom, he would make it pressure and make it into a diamond.
Dear, you know how to do. That's wonderful.
Oh, that's the sweetest gift of all, right there. I don't know.
innovative.
I don't know if he's laughing at me or with me.
Nope, just with you.
Just with you.
Just with you.
But the thing about the show too is that we had a lot going on in the lobby beforehand. That was kind of neat though,
Oh,
because
it was
we had
wonderful.
We had you and Santa, a lot of pictures being taken.
The lobby was packed with people.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful spread of cookies and cocoa, and when we came out, the kids were so excited.
Dear, do you know I didn't eat a single cookie? We were so busy with the kids.
We were.
We were so busy.
That's true.
I kept saying, save one for me, save one for me.
Well, that's all right. I gave you a dozen when we went home. It's okay.
So we had Spikes and Mitzi there, and Spikes
yes.
Spikes is great, and Spikes invented that song. It's Buffalo, 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 instead of Let Us Know. And Mitzi's always delightful, and the dinosaurs, the no nonsense round table dinosaurs,
the Ticklesauruses.
Ticklesauruses, yeah. So if anybody's never seen these costumes of dinosaurs, that a regular person gets into the dinosaur costume, but the costume is about.
There was a person in there?
So they were like 7 feet.
Once they started tickling me,
they're like 7 feet. They're like 7 feet tall. These dinosaurs. They had these little arms and whatever. And the children would be a little bit afraid of them at first, until I told them it was a Ticklesaurus, and they went to tickle them. They're all oh, it was just so sweet.
Very nice.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have to do this again.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, every year.
Yeah, every year, and the serious parts of it too. You know, Gabby reading the Bible passage, and the beautiful rendition of Silent Night was just wonderful.
It was beautiful.
Yes, Gabby's just a wonderful, good-hearted girl. I'm so glad she was there.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the talent that we had Don Alhart and Theresa Marsenburg and the James Gilbert, who was the meteorologist on Channel 8, and I never forget the look of the kids' faces when they got their questions right. It was wonderful.
I didn't recognize him without his tie. I'll be honest. He had a sweater. I didn't recognize him.
So again, thank you ever so much for participating in the No Nonsense Roundtable Christmas show, and God bless you, and God bless you for what you do. And
well, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Thank you, Dom.
Well, thank you to the Santas for being on our show. I'd like to welcome another special guest, our friend Gabby, who's going to read a very famous Bible passage to you.
And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men.
Ah, Gabby, that was a wonderful job as always. We are so thankful that you come in and do that each year. Now, before we go, I have one more thing for you, and it's a wonderful rendition of Silent Night by our friend Scott Mayo from LA. And here it is. Well, that's our show. There are a couple of people I'd like to give a special thank you to, and one is Don Alhart for his reading of Sibley's Christmas Adventure. The other is Christopher Bench and the Strong National Museum of Play for donating their theater to us and letting us take charge for December 5th, and the Bob Johnson Auto Group for sponsoring the show, paying for the expenses, and making a very generous donation to the Rochester Rotary Sunshine Camp. And so, until next week, this is Dom Genova saying, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.